The air was thick and unsettled over Adams, Tennessee. It was the early 1800s, and whispers of a sinister curse haunted the farmlands around the Bell family estate. Beneath the rolling fog and the golden sway of wheat fields, shadows crept, quiet yet vigilant, as if concealing secrets waiting to burst forth. The legend of the Bell, which would seep into these lands and twist the lives of one family into a nightmare they could not escape. The Bell family, a once prosperous and respected household, had been proud to settle in the fertile Tennessee countryside. John Bell, the family patriarch, had worked tirelessly to build their wealth and reputation. However, even the most honored families could fall prey to jealousy and resentment. One such resentful neighbor was a woman by the name of Kate Batts. Known as an eccentric and sharp-tongued widow, Kate had long been the subject of town gossip. People called her a witch behind her back, and some even believed her to be in league with dark forces. But nobody imagined just how deeply Kate's spite would scar the Bell family. It began subtly, a chill that clung to the Bell homestead even in the height of summer, the creak of floorboards when nobody walked them, and the feeling of unseen eyes following you as you moved through the halls. At first, the Bells dismissed these as quirks of an old home. But when their youngest daughter, Betsy Bell, started experiencing terrifying visions, John's heart began to pound with a sense of dread. Betsy would wake in the dead of night, screaming that a dark figure with hollow, fiery eyes was watching her from the shadows. Then the knocking began. Loud, rhythmic banging echoed through the house every night at exactly midnight, resounding like a death knell. John would light his candle and search the house from cellar to attic, yet found nothing. The windows rattled as if gripped by an unseen hand, and doors would slam shut without warning. It was only a matter of time before John and his wife, Lucy, realized that this was no ordinary haunting. It was personal, and the entity wanted them to know it. The disturbances grew more violent with each passing night. John Bell became a wreck, drained from the constant lack of sleep and the weight of fear pressing down on him. And then one evening, something terrifying happened. The family was gathered in the parlor, bracing themselves for the onslaught of ghostly noises that had become a nightly ritual when a raspy voice hissed through the air. "You cannot escape me, John Bell. This house is mine. Your life is mine." The voice was as cold as grave soil and twisted with malice. It lingered like a foul stench, seeping into the walls, penetrating every corner of the home. John's face turned pale, his pulse thundering in his ears. The Bells knew that voice. They'd heard it in the whispered warnings around town, and in the stories of children. It was Kate Batts speaking to them from beyond the veil of death. "I will not rest," she whispered, as if her voice slithered through the air. Not until the last bell has fallen. The family could barely believe it. Could Kate Batts, their human neighbor, somehow have cast a curse so powerful that it reached from beyond the grave? But they had no other explanation, and fear gnawed at their hearts like a parasite. John was convinced he was living under a curse, haunted by the spirit of a woman who had grown in resentment, using dark forces to ruin him and his family. From then on, the hauntings only became more ruthless. Betsy's screams filled the nights as invisible hands yanked at her hair and scratched her skin, leaving crimson welts that burned for days. She couldn't sleep, couldn't rest, and each morning brought a new mark. It was as if the spirit held a special hatred for Betsy, torturing her with a ferocity that drove her to the edge of despair. John, too, suffered under the witch's wrath. His health deteriorated rapidly. His once strong body became frail and gaunt. No doctor could diagnose him. No medicine could alleviate his pain. He would feel a hand gripping his throat in the dark, hear the hiss of Kate's voice taunting him, draining the very life from his veins. At night, Lucy Bell would sit beside her husband, her hands trembling as she recited prayers, but even her faith seemed powerless. The more they prayed, the stronger the witch's voice became, laughing at their desperation. The hauntings soon extended beyond the Bell's home, infecting the townsfolk with terror. Neighbors reported strange phenomena. A cow would collapse, as though struck by an invisible force. Crops would wither under the stare of an unseen entity. The whole town lived in fear of the night, knowing that the Bell Witch held dominion over their lives. Finally, in a moment of desperation, John Bell sought the help of local clergy and even skeptics who claimed knowledge of the occult. He was determined to rid his family of this curse, but every attempt to banish the spirit ended in failure. The witch, it seemed, could not be appeased or exorcised by conventional means. Some believed that her hate was so strong, it transcended mortality itself, allowing her spirit to linger on Earth with a power that defied natural law. Then came the most disturbing turn of all. On a night thick with fog, the voice of Kate Batts issued a challenge to John Bell himself. She called him out, taunting him, demanding that he make amends for his sins. Confused and infuriated, John stood in the darkness, trembling as the voice mocked him from the shadows. "You think you can escape me, John Bell?" the witch snarled. "I see into your heart. I know what you have done, and I will have my vengeance." John's mind spiraled in confusion. What could he have done to incur such wrath? But the voice would not relent. It goaded him, told him that he would soon know what true suffering was, and that no one, man, woman, or child, was safe in her presence. As the years passed, the Bell family was pushed to the brink. Betsy Bell, worn down by years of torment, sank into depression, her spirit nearly broken. And then, one winter night, as the family gathered by a flickering fire, they heard the unmistakable laugh of the witch. It was filled with satisfaction, as if she had finally achieved her wicked goal. "You belong to me, John Bell," she whispered. "Your life is mine." The following morning, John Bell was found unconscious in his bed, his face contorted in agony. Beside him lay a small vial containing a mysterious black liquid. No one knew how it had come to be there. Terrified and bewildered, Lucy Bell tried to feed him milk to counteract the poison, but it was too late. As the family gathered around his deathbed, the ghostly voice rang out in a final, chilling proclamation. "I told you, John Bell, that I would take your life, and I have. Now, your soul is mine forever." John Bell's death was the culmination of the Bell Witch's revenge. His burial was quiet, somber, and overshadowed by an atmosphere of dread. In the days following his death, the Bell Witch's presence seemed to fade, as if her vengeance had been satisfied. But the Bell family would never fully recover. Betsy, haunted by years of torment, left Adams, seeking solace far from the cursed land that had stolen her childhood. As for the townsfolk, they whispered that the witch still haunted the Bell land, her laughter sometimes heard in the wind, and her voice lurking within the darkness of Tennessee nights. Over the years, stories of the Bell Witch spread across the country. Paranormal enthusiasts, historians, and thrill seekers have visited the cursed site, claiming to experience the remnants of her wrath. The legacy of the Bell Witch remains a haunting reminder of the dangers of revenge, resentment, and the power that hatred can wield even beyond the grave. The Bell Witch would forever mark the Bell family and Adams, Tennessee, with a curse that neither time nor distance could ever erase.